Hello, all you beautiful individuals. We back for a little bit more power ranking action on League Unlock. Eric and Mark. It is the LEC's turn. The first time we're doing a little power ranking for summer action. And if you watched any of the preseason power rankings that we did, we had the top three, It wasn't G2 based on how things ended in spring. So we're carrying over a lot of those preseason rankings into this first week of summer action.
Despite 3 games, a super week to kick off the LEC, not exactly enough to shake up what we have seen as our preseason rankings for the summer split.
Yeah, not anything too jarring from that first weekend of action. As we start towards the bottom, we have the trio of XL, SK, and Schalke. And yes, XL able to pick up a win against Schalke, which then, okay, well, why isn't XL higher than Schalke? XL, I think, has the least expectations coming into this year. Schalke, you got to weigh the win against G2, even though that was their only win. And for SK, going winless, if you watch the 3 games, this doesn't look like an 0-3 team.
Yeah, they certainly are the bottom teams, at the very least, week one of the LEC. I think that needs to be established and accepted by the organizations and the fan bases. But when you are looking for positives, I really like the way that you mentioned SK, because watching every game, watching all 3 games, you can't tell me that this isn't a group that is going to find not only progress, but is going to find some type of ground in the LEC to really put up some results as well. Because in that, whether it's the very bottom or the middle, they're not the very bottom, very clearly, what we can see at the very least, which is nice to ease some of the concerns I think a lot of us had about SK's changes for summer.
Treats didn't look like it was his first week jungling in the LEC. I'll tell you that much.
I mean, this is the guy that we talk about all the time on making the making plays, making the engages.
But on picks like Nidalee, that ain't close to any support pick.
Absolutely, that ain't something that you're required to do as a support. But the engages, the calls that he is making, the communication at the very least, seems to exactly still be there and carrying through even more so as it was talked with this change to jungle, carrying more so of that early game communication. And I really like what's happening and what I expect to hopefully get better in the next couple of weeks. That's why I like.
So ahead of those bottom 3 squads, you have Vitality, which I think for both of us was one of the more disappointing weekends that we saw because this roster was so hyped up. It started nicely against Schalke, but when they went head-to-head against some of these more playoff-bound teams, it was underwhelming.
Yeah, and the reason you feel, or we feel really more or less disappointed, is just thinking about the potential, the players that are there, the skill that is there with Vitality, and where they should be in the LEC. It wasn't out of the question to expect them to be competitive with those squads, to be right up there challenging and coming out of the way, very least week 1, with a winning record. Unfortunately, not able to do that. And you're left in this position that, as we talk about, where you're left feeling disappointed about week 1. By no means is anyone jumping ship or saying that, oh, well, this was the experiment, it's all over.
No.
Absolutely waiting to see more from this Vitality team.
And again, we did see these glimpses of self-made and leader being very aggressive leader, maybe not playing as much for lane as opposed to running around the map. We get to see anytime he's going to be something like Viego or Silas, we've seen him smurf on EU Masters countless times over the last couple of years. So not the debut you were hoping for Vitality, but absolutely just week 1. We're going to chill out for now. Ahead of them, you talk about, okay, Vitality was disappointing. Astralis, 2-1 start. They only had 6 wins all of last split. They already hit a third of that total in the first week. It wasn't the most difficult schedule for them, but White Knight in particular on that Lee Sin top, we got a highlight from this weekend.
And that's a fantastic thing for Astralis, because what had we been talking about at all with Astralis in the spring split? If anything, it was about Magic Felix. And then even at that point, the next closest member, you'd be talking about Zenzara and what he's going on in the jungle. So to have someone else, another solo laner for this team, for Astralis, to emerge as something to talk about, that feels very good to have White Knight producing or showing signs of getting better the way that he has. And for Astralis, week 1, the way it went, you couldn't have asked for better.
And Magic Felix always finding a way to shoehorn Corky into a game, regardless of what the meta is. We got that again in week 1 for him as well. As we move in to that top 5, and this is, it's tricky to put Fnatic in that 5 spot, but because they had such a big lead against Misfits and it looked like they were going to win that game, and they get a win against Rogue, one of the top teams in the league. Despite going 1-2, it's enough for them to sneak into that top 5.
They sneak right in. But they got to be careful because they are just sitting on that teetering point of the seesaw right now.
They can plummet quickly.
Absolutely is the way that we see Fnatic and the way that they have played. There are positives. There are positives that certainly deserve mentioning, as you've talked about. I think Whippo brought his signature Whippo-ness to the
There were positives to him and negatives, just like in top lane. Most solo kills, most solo deaths. Let's go.
Absolutely. So there is that coin to talk about, and as well Adam in the top side and the job that he did in the first full LEC weekend. I think certainly a very good debut showing, and one that easily can be built upon by someone like himself.
And we're seeing Niski get picks like Lucian. We're used to seeing him be the more supportive mid laner, trying to just help out his team, but seeing him on Lucian and have a good performance on it against somebody like Larson, that was exciting for me to see Niski getting some recognition, because he's been pretty stable since he came to Fnatic.
And it's nice, as you said, see that aggressive type of pick come through, because it felt like for a while, these were some of the ones that we wanted to talk about, the Lucian specifically, about what Niski could do on it, and then comes over to Cloud9 and more or less is playing a supportive type of role in that mid lane and everything else. And that's what it was for Spring Split from Fnatic. Early on, seeing glimpses of the old Niski come through, and that could be an extra addition for the Fnatic squad.
One of the reasons they're not sitting with another win is Misfits did complete that comeback 3-0, the only squad to do that in week 1. Now, it was, I don't want to say an easier schedule, but it wasn't against any of the top 3 teams, which is why, despite going undefeated, you can't skyrocket them into the top 3 yet.
No, need to be careful with the hype for Misfits. Absolutely like what we saw in turning it around, and especially getting, as you said, that comeback victory against Fnatic was really the impressive one over the weekend for me. Individually, you're getting pop-offs, you're getting what you want to be seeing. Just need to be careful with this growth and where we want to put our expectations for this Misfits team, because right now in the power rankings, at the very least, they're getting to that dangerous elite territory, and I would be careful to say that their goals and their expectations should not exactly be in that territory just yet for Summer Split.
Been getting a lot of KT Rolster vibes from Misfits these days. As soon as you recognize them, get a little hype, it's dead.
We're not excited. It's not happening.
Excited. It's week 1. They had an easy schedule. The thing we mentioned before, the top 3, not enough of a shakeup. We're keeping what we had in the preseason, even though Mad lost that head-to-head to G2, because they still looked pretty good in their other 2 matches, and you had G2 dropping a game to Schalke. It's not enough to feel like you need to shake up that top 3.
It was going to take something incredibly drastic to really shake up that top 3.
Just 1 week.
Just 1 week. What we have seen, what I want to talk about with this top 3, is there's going to be movement. And that is absolutely going to be going on. We're going to get movement in it as soon as the next week with the type of games that we have on the schedule. But you need to be able to have a little bit of patience, as you said, with these top 3 teams and what you can expect from them, even with the way things went in this 3-game Super Week.
G2 Rogue in week 2, last match of the weekend. So, you don't have to wait long for that head-to-head between the top 3. And if you look back at spring, there were some fun times in the regular season between those 2 squads.
You better believe we're going to get some fireworks in this head-to-head matchup between these ones. And only bigger ones when we get more later in the split with the rest of this top 3 of the European elite.
Yeah, for now it remains those top 3 in a category of their own, tier of their own, if you want to call it. But that's it today for the LEC rankings. Eric and Mark here with you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we will catch you on that flippity flop.